You ready?
G'day, boys and girls, Carnage House fans, brothers and sisters, and fellow fighters for truth. We begin this transmission with the sombre and awful news that Julian Assange, the Australian computer scientist and journalist, has been arrested from inside the Ecuadorian embassy, where he had been previously granted asylum since 2012. Now, Julian Assange is public enemy number one on the deep state hit list, and the reason for this is the following. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks were the organisation which published the Iraq war logs pertaining to America's involvement in Iraq, which demonstrated that not everything was exactly as was being reported in the news media. We recognise that the military-industrial complex had overreached and were in fact using enhanced interrogation techniques and unnecessary use of lethal force on Iraqi civilians for an extended period of time during the operation. We also remember that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks were the ones to publish the information pertaining to the Democratic 2016 primary vote. This was in relation to Hillary Clinton and the DNC rigging the primary vote against Bernie Sanders to ensure that Hillary Clinton gained the leadership of the Democratic Party going into the 2016 presidential election. Now, of course, this when combined with the leaking of the Iraq war logs, sees that the CIA, the FBI, the DNC, the news media are all out to get Julian. And it appears on first instance that this is exactly what's happened. But Dukes, tell us why he's being extradited and what happened.
I would also include the warhawk Republicans to that list, who haven't seen a war in the Middle East, which they don't like. But what's happened recently, as of last night, is that the Ecuadorian ambassador invited London police into the embassy to arrest Julian Assange. Now, on what grounds was he arrested? Well, they were fake grounds created by the deep state in America, but this is what they were. In kind of 2012, 2010, there were sexual assault allegations created in Sweden against Julian, which required Julian to show up in a London court. Now, of course, he didn't do that because he knew that as soon as he stepped outside that Ecuadorian embassy, he was going to get arrested and sent back to America to await a trial which would have some serious sentences, like potentially a death sentence, life imprisonment, because he pissed off the wrong people. So what's happened since then is that the Ecuadorian country has revoked its citizenship of Julian under the new president, and he's been handed over to London police. Now, since today, he's been convicted of not showing up for that London court hearing, and he will face the extradition request, which will be heard on May 2nd, where he will probably be sent back to the US. Now, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has refused to intervene. He said that this is a matter for the United States, even though it's allegedly for a Swedish sexual assault allegation. Newt Gingrich, as a Republican, appeared on Fox News and said that this man is an enemy of national security. But we would note that the other enemy of national security is in fact the military-industrial complex, which has been shooting Middle Eastern civilians with Apache helicopters for years, and we think that that is in the national interest and of people to know about it, to understand it, and for the government of whose land we occupy to know about that as well.
So what you're going to hear over the next couple of days, and you've already begun to see it, is these old rhino Republicans, these real military-industrial complex puppets creep out of the woodwork, and what they're going to say is the following. They're going to say Julian Assange leaks national security secrets to the media. He's an enemy of the state. He's endangered both America and their allies, and that his attempt to undermine the US 2016 presidential election in conjunction with apparent Russian interference all contribute to him being an enemy of the state. And I would say the following. The DNC and the political establishment in Washington is as corrupt as they come. Most of the secrets, almost all the secrets that Julian Assange will be and has released are not in fact national security secrets, but they are political secrets, and that's his basic argument. The other side, the second pillar of Julian Assange's argument for why he does what he does, is that if the data is not safe with the people who have it as it is, if there are already leaks and there are already hackings going on, it is much safer that the people have it rather than just the government and the enemies of the US government, because we guarantee that if Julian Assange and WikiLeaks has the data, then everyone else has it. And the only people who don't, the people who get left out, the people who are in fact less safe as a consequence of this kind of in cahoots, mates versus mates, military-industrial complex political establishment, is the people. The people end up with the raw deal. And so what you're going to see over the next few days is a lot of people covering for the expansion of the military-industrial complex, using national security as a means by which they can unlawfully detain and prosecute a citizen. And I would say to Scott Morrison, he says, well, we're not going to give any exceptional help to Julian Assange. I would say to you, you've given him exceptionally no help. So far, you have given him no help, which is a total exception to how Australia normally operates when a citizen of this country is being held unlawfully without charge abroad. Scott Morrison, you're an absolute beta male, and if you had any guts, you'd stand up to these thugs in the deep state and show them how we respect an Australian citizen, a journalist abroad.
One final thing from me is that you'll hear a lot about Assange in particular, and you'll see the deep state focus totally on Assange, but what no one's focusing on is actually the secrets that were revealed. The war crimes, the liberal tactics that were used for torture. You won't see people talking about the Middle Eastern civilians that were killed. You won't talk about the people who authorised those actions, but you will hear about Julian Assange, who revealed that information, who revealed the truth, who is a friend of the people, a friend of freedom, and a friend of liberty, which makes him a natural enemy of the deep state. And so we stand with you, brother. We'll continue to cover this story. We hope you don't get extradited to the US. We hope that some Australian politicians grow some balls, because we think there is an ample reservoir of support for Julian in Australia, and not only is it morally the right thing to do, but it probably is also a politically wise thing to do.
Thanks for being with us.